Continue the second half of the split. I'm Quickshot, joined by Vedius, and we're going to bring home the last 3 games of the day. And it's a fantastic story for Febiven. I called him a washed-up mid laner yesterday, and I think if you look at 2019, you could make a very defendable argument.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But when you look at 2020, the kid's finding his form again.
The man's smurfing. Like, I remember back in 2015, I was watching at home, watching him play up against Faker. When he got that solo kill, I was like, oh, yes, Europe has some of the best mid laners in the world. And then expectations were, especially last year when he was part of that super team, we were all talking about on the broadcast, where it was just like, yes, this is the team that Febiven, along with all these star names around him, they're going to succeed. And then, obviously, they crashed and burned. And many people debated if it was even worth putting Febiven in the roster this year. You know, Ronaldo was a player coming in from the ERLs that many looked at and questioned, like, maybe you give him a shot instead, maybe you put him at the front lines, but no, the team trusted in Febiven. He did showcase some highlight moments last year, but it does feel like that he's back in form. And he needs to be, because he's going up against a very star laner in the form of Larssen, who has had, well, mixed performances in recent weeks, but has overall had a very good split as well.
And the thing that I find amazing is these are the 2 teams that I personally am the most excited about when I think of who is likely to challenge the Fnatics, the G2s and the OGs when it comes to playoffs. I would like to continue to see the progression and see how the second half goes. If either of these teams can pick up some more wins against those top of the table teams, well then maybe we can see some surprises. Yesterday, if I recall correctly, was it Alfari and Yankos that both said quite bluntly, no, they're not going to upset us. It's G2, Fnatic, and OG that's going to win the split. But again, it's up to these 2 newish squads to challenge, and you cannot deny the fact that Misfits at 7-2, they're standing in first place.
I mean, the irony is Misfits is in this position because they beat both Origin and G2 in the first half of the split. And there were such big surprise upset wins that many people were willing to discount them, but sure, maybe you could make that debate against Origin. Okay, fine, Origin had a bit of a wonky draft. Origin didn't play that great. Okay, maybe. But then when they absolutely smashed G2, you just kind of like, okay, no, you can't keep saying this. Like, we can't hold on to this perception that Misfits is winning just because their opponents are playing badly. No one goes on a 7-game winning streak
because they're just lucky.
Luck. Yeah, exactly. So they're in this position because they've won games. They now move into the second half, but this is where the challenge really comes. Because we've seen teams at the top of the standing not make playoffs before.
Well, just very quickly, as Febiven is on your screen, we do have a little special soundbite from Febiven that I'd like to hear, and it talks a little bit about the pressures of last year to this year.
Well, what is the hope for Misfits? What is it that you guys can really reach for? What is it that you guys need to change to start winning?
I think it's just it starts the moment you wake up in the morning, you know. Like, how does Misfits, everyone in this organization, how does everyone think when they wake up, you know? Like, why are they waking up, you know? What drives them? Why are we trying to compete, you know? I think it comes really, like, it has to come really deep within yourself, and if you don't feel that, then and another person does, then this person will outwork you, you know. So you need that drive, you know. You need that fuel that you want to get better because you want to get better, you know. And you can't be stale in this competition because look at the teams, like look at G2 right now. There's no fucking way we're going to beat them, you know? There's just like no way. So, I know it's all in the brain, you know? It's like, why are you even practicing? You know? And it's like, it's less complaining, more responsibility. Everyone has to like toughen up, you know? It's like, can't be scared anymore. We're all here to fucking win. And if you're holding back, then you are not trying your hardest, you know, you're not getting the most out of yourself or the situation or your team. Because at some point you have to realize that this is mostly for the people around you as well, you know. For the team, you know, like the whole organization. Like, they treat us so fucking well, you know, and like when I realize what we're giving back, it's fucking shit, you know. And when I think about that, that hurts, you know.
That's hearing from Febiven in 2019. I would love to hear his thoughts on that interview today after this roster is on a 7-game winning streak and they have a chance to make it 8. But it starts with taking down Rogue. What can Rogue do?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are jumping into the draft between these two teams. Many consider Rogue to be a contender for the top spots, but they've had some mixed performances yesterday. They definitely struggled against Fnatic. They were not expecting the Zac top lane. They did not have a good answer, and really, that Zac did not allow them to play the game. So let's see where they shift their priorities. With the Ornn taken off the board, Rakan also gone. Perhaps some flashbacks from yesterday from Hylissang's Rakan. Also Denyk, known to be a very good Rakan player, already showcased it a lot this split, with Misfits focusing in on a lot of some of the current meta expected red side bans.
I remember Denyk's Rakan. I remember particularly because it helped introduce Craps back to the LEC. And of course, yes, you know, a lot of fans at home will be looking and talking about the fact that we have focused a lot on the Misfits story today. And I think it's important to remind everyone that, like, at the beginning of this split, the Misfits squad was projected by many to be 8th, 9th, or 10th place.
Yep.
And now they're sitting in first. Rogue, on the other hand, was a team that was projected to be in the top, let's say 5, you know, pretty safely by most analysts. And now they still are there. I want to see how competitive this game is going to be. Yesterday, Rogue disappointed me a little bit. I know that they can do better in the early game, and I'm hoping they can bring it out today. They've already locked in the Yuumi. Bvoy's got himself the misfortune on the other side.
So what are they going to prioritize? We've been seeing a bit of an evolution of the meta right now, where we're not always seeing those Lee Sins, the Elise picks, coming in on the very early rotations. Instead, we've been seeing a lot of top lane picks. Set in particular is someone that sits at the top priority. I'm personally not a fan of just blind picking him. I'm also not really a fan of Aatrox being used as an answer. Not to say that Aatrox isn't a fine pick into the matchup, but I feel that there are much stronger picks that can better punish the set in the 1 versus 1.
No, I just feel like there's these windows of opportunity where either Set or Aatrox can, you know, take advantage. And Vedis, I'd love for you to share some insight into where you think that can happen in game.
When we get in game, we'll talk a little bit about it. But for Rogue, it looks like that they've gone for pretty meta. Bot side is going to be playing much more towards the weak side of the map with the Ezreal and the Yuumi. We've been seeing it a lot in the current meta, with Misfits going for also, like, this is a very meta draft. Very much what you expect from European teams with Misfortune, Set, and Gragas. You've got the Engage coming out from the jungle. You also have a lot of AP damage, which opens up a lot of options for Febiven. He could continue to play things like the Azir if he wants to, but he'll also get the counter pick at the very end.
Are you pretty confident already this is going to be Set Aatrox top, or do you think they're just going to swap each other?
I'm expecting Set top, but that's one of the great things about Set. And I think something that often gets overlooked is how he can be used as a flex pick. You can move him into mid. Technically, he can be jungled as well. I know...
I've heard support very recently, too.
Yes, support as well. I know TSM played it not too long ago. So I think that it can be a possible pick in multiple positions, depending on where you want to put it. For now, though, it looks like that it will be in the top lane, depending on what comes through now for Rogue, with Ornn taken off the board. Yeah, that's the main reason why I expect it.
I'm so glad it's gone. I'm so glad Ornn is gone. It's just, he's everywhere right now, and I like to not cast him in every single game, so it's it makes me smile. And that's a pipe.
I like this. I like this a lot from Denyk. I think it's really good into... you have so much pressure in this 2 versus 2 now. And one of the things about Yuumi Ezreal is why it can be obnoxious because of the amount of poke that it has in lane. It doesn't really threaten things like dives. It's not the best composition when it comes to trying to kill the MF, which means that this gives a lot of freedom for the Prike to roam around the map and work with Razork to look for kills. And I think that's where we've seen a lot of the success of this Misfits squad come from. The fact that Denyk and Razork work so well together, they often play through the mid lane as well, has enabled them to have very strong mid games over the last few weeks.
Ooh, very, very fun indeed. And there we go. Aatrox will be in the top lane as Larssen has snuck away that Azir, and now Febiven will get the chance to run something into it. What would you like to see considering the composition already?
I'm trying to think. I mean, Ryze is an option, but I don't think it's the best pick. They could consider Veigar, depending on how much they've played it. I don't think they will, though. I don't think it's their style of champion. Yeah, they're going to stick for a little more standard. Zoe's fine. I wouldn't say that it's like a hard counter or anything, but it's difficult for the Azir to bully you out early. You have good wave clear, you have good pick power. Synergizes quite well with the Pyke, but just kind of looking at the comps in their entirety, Misfits comp doesn't actually have a huge amount of crowd control. They have a lot of single target CC, things like the Zoe E, the Pyke Q, the stun from Pyke as well. A lot of their engage is going to have to come from the Gragas. Meanwhile, for Rogue, they actually have a lot of range on their comp. Whenever I look at champions like Ezreal and Azir, a lot of their scaling is influenced by how easy they are to kill in the late game. And so, yes, you do have Pyke that can threaten the backline. Set, depending on what target he's able to get on top of, can use those to be able to dive onto the backline as well. But with things like Yuumi and with the disengage available on Rogue, I think they have a lot of disengage. So I think that one of the things that Misfits is going to struggle with is actually killing the carries of Rogue. So I think this early game is really important for them, and I'd love to see them invest a lot into mid in order to try and get Febiven ahead.
But I also wonder to myself, when you look at the Aatrox and the Java, they are fairly tanky, but there's a lot of damage on the side of the Misfits squad. So if they get that single target CC, if they're in control of the game, maybe they can also use that pick to their favor, so to speak. Yesterday, of course, I went real ham, Vedius, on Rogue's early game strengths and their stats. And like I was looking at all of like their first dragon percentage, first tower, first blood, number of towers secured. And of course, naturally, after I hammed them up, they didn't deliver on many of those things.
Yep.
But I do want to mention it again that up until very recently, and even including yesterday, Rogue still have a fantastic early game. So Misfits cannot afford to disregard that. They do have to be aware and give Rogue the respect that they deserve, because we've seen what Rogue can do up until this week as well.
But the thing is, Rogue's advantages largely come from the fact that they have very good players and laners, which means that they often just beat down their opponents in the 2v2s and the 1v1s, and that's where they build their leads. And then with the small leads that they get from lane, they're very good at transitioning that around the map. But then you'd have to make the statement that Rogue's players are just straight up better than Misfits players.
Yeah.
They have the ability to build those advantages, and based on what we've been seeing from Misfits recently, I don't know if you can reliably expect Rogue to get those kind of advantages, because they definitely couldn't do it against Fnatic yesterday. And, you know, given that Misfits is sitting at the top of the table, we'll see if they can do it today.
The thing is, Rogue have shown that they could get those advantages 4.5 weeks ago. Because this was one of the first games that Misfits played at the beginning of the spring split. Misfits was going 0-2.
It's true.
And they dropped a game to Rogue. But it feels like that team in week 1 from Misfits has not come back to the stage.
Yeah, I mean, Dan stopped playing Nocturne top is also one of the things
It helps
that
a
help
lot.
them.
It helps a lot. I particularly remember your cameo in that game.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, the player has definitely gotten a lot better since then, that's for sure. Hopefully now, with this higher level of performance, you'll bring the champion back and everyone can see its glory. But in any case, we can see that junglers right now starting on bot side of the map for both of them. What is this? I'm having a look at Inspired right now. He's gone red, he's looking for mid. Is he gonna go for a very early level 2 gank? He's already swept this out. Febiven obviously has no idea, but he is playing towards the top side. I like this a lot from Febiven, showcasing a lot of respect. You can see that this ward came out from him that he's just walking by. What his plan was here was like, okay, in the event that Inspired comes from this way, then I'll have vision of him, I'll be able to react in time, but I'm just gonna focus on playing towards the top side of the map, just in case he tries a level 2 gank. He recognizes it, he avoids it. Good awareness from Febiven at early level.
And it's one of those things that we keep talking about. A small decision, but it has big, implications
it does. It really
ramifications. Does. Hypothetically, you lose a flash, or even worse, give Larssen an early kill, and this lane can go even more differently. But I'm looking at Razork. He's done a pretty extensive clear, making his way to the top half of the map. I want to see what decision-making he's going to do as we continue to play out.
Well, it looks like that he's gone from blue to red to Krugs, and then he's going to start pathing back towards the bot side of the map. He is going to hit level 3 off of this camp, and he could look for early Scuttle because he does have, or on the Scuttle Crab on the top side of the map, because he does have push in mid and in top lane. But I think his priority right now is just covering for Dan, making sure that this wave gets underneath the tower, and so that it can start to bounce back. And as we often see from many Set versus Aatrox matchups, the Set will get the early push, because it's very difficult for Finn, given his long cooldowns, to be able to stop him. He needs to be careful. He almost took an extra tower shot there, but are they really going to try and dive this? Yes, they are.
They are going to look for it. Razork comes in, manages to get the body slam. The true damage is flashed away from. Razork takes a
They're
tower
going to try again.
shot.
Febiven's coming.
Now, Flash was already used from Finn. He's going to be able to get at least one of those chains down. He goes to dash forward to Dan, goes Arten forward. First blood, Febiven. And that was a fantastic roam. Close, but it works.
Great utilization of the pressure that Febiven had in the mid lane to be able to rotate up and help secure that kill for Misfits. They now have drawn first blood, and this is going to put Finn behind, going to force him to use that very early teleport, whereas Dan will be able to hold on to it. The best thing Inspire can do is steal away some of the camps, and this is actually forcing Bvoy and Denyk to play much more defensively. You can see them sitting underneath their tower, recognizing that the jungler is topside, and knowing that they won't be able to get that assistance. We have to keep track of wards in the lane, because again, that TP disparity means that Misfits could look for a play in the bot lane soon.
They can indeed. So Dan's got his, keeping in mind Hans Summer's got a TP of his own, as Inspired will drop that Demacian standard for some vision. A couple of pings there onto the Wolf Camp. I think there's a ward in it from the Rogue side once it times out. I couldn't quite see. Nevertheless, it's a small advantage to Misfits, and I think it's still impressive to see that, you know, Misfits, the pathing that Razork rather, moving into the enemy jungle and then having the support from Febiven. Good communication, good teamwork, and it gives them the first kill. Sorkshoe's picked up for Febi now.
The thing I would debate is if that was really the plan from Misfits to actually set up a good dive, or whether it was just by circumstance. And I think what's impressive is the fact that regardless, they were able to make it work without
either way, it's
successfully
impressive,
punished.
right?
Yeah. And now they're going to obviously move towards the other side of the map. Finn is in a very difficult situation, but he knows where the enemy jungler is, so he can afford to push this wave up in the top side. And Misfits now want to get a little bit more control around the Drake, but also alleviate some of the pressure from that Hans Summer and Vander are exerting down in the bot lane. This 2v2, very obnoxious to deal with. You can see that there is a lot of poke, but at level 6 is when things really start to change. Denyk will have his ultimate, Bvoy will have the same, and there's a lot of gank setup and kill pressure that this duo will have available to them. Alternatively, Denyk could just look for early Moby Boots and start roaming, like we talked about in Champions League. Unless Jarvan shows up, Bvoy can feel pretty confident that he's not going to get dived by this duo, which gives a lot of freedom for Denyk to actually look for plays around the map.
Just use that bullet time to keep the wave away from you. If at any point you're a little nervous or you think that Inspired's coming around, well then chuck it out.
For another play top lane.
Now remember, Finn, no flash, 50% of the cooldown. Febiven's making his way up, and here comes Razork. Has managed to throw down that Predator before he decides to body slam over the wall. And when you look at the mini-map, Inspired and Larssen did start to cheat towards the west, but Inspired's now the only one in the area. Larssen went back to lane. All right, so Gromp not going to get taken down. It's just about to reset, and it looks like Inspired secured that one. Umbral Chains pulls Dan backwards, and he's going to continue to chase, and Jungler's about to go face-to-face.
Oh, look, here he is. Thank you, observers, for highlighting Denyk. He has not rushed the early Moby Boots. He's actually grabbed himself the longsword, getting a bit of extra damage. Usually you see an early Umbral Glaive come out from the pikes because of how effective it is at clearing out vision in the early game. Really does help, because even when you just spot the wards, you still do 3 damage to them. So a very useful item, especially on this champ. We also see the TP coming out in the bot lane. And this was just Denyk looking for another opportunity. But I wanted to highlight how well Misfits are playing with their waves right now. So much respect coming out from the bot side of the map. You can see that, yes, the CS discrepancy is building, but that's because so far in this early game, Misfits' game plan has been to play around top. Every time a wave has stacked underneath Finn's tower, he's been at risk of getting dived. And who's there to show up as support as well? Febiven.
Yep.
It's never just 1-2 people, it's Misfits using their full top side, and the fact that they have this early pressure to actually look for dives in the early game. And this is what they need to do, because we talked about how it's going to be challenging for them to play against the long range that Rogue has with their comp later into the game. So getting an early lead is very important.
And especially on a champion like Zoe, one of the only champions that can sort of outrange members of the Rogue squad as well. If you can use that Paddle Star or the Sleepy Trouble bubble, it'd be such a game changer. But as it stands, 64 CS to 62 in the mid lane, 69 to 55. Bvoy slowly falling behind, but there's a very big wave, maybe 2 waves actually, moving towards him as Denyk had already left the lane a few moments ago. But of course, for every CS that Bvoy is losing, Dan is making up for. And now, with the numbers advantage at the bottom half of the map, as well as a very big wave at the tower, Rogue is going in for the Mouse and Drake.
Yeah, they're going to utilize their pressure to try and maintain control, admittedly, while Finn has been pressured a lot and is falling behind. Larssen is doing a great job of farming in the mid lane. Inspired has maintained good vision control, but quickly have a look at this ward just behind the Drake. This is a great flanking opportunity that Misfits could use because Dan does have a teleport advantage. They recognize, they see it, and again, look at the minimap. Set moving it to the top lane. He's waiting for that TP. Here it comes.
All right, starting to channel. No interrupt yet from Finn. Won't be able to get there closely. The pressure alone will allow the Dragon to be secured, but now at what cost? That's what I want to understand. Teleport has been used in the True Shot Barrage, almost taking out Bvoy, but Dandan's still waiting in the wings. So if Hansam and Vander push forward, they could be in trouble, and it looks like Dandan is going fishing.
Way is he actually going to try and make this play? Admittedly, top lane is frozen. Yeah, no, he's going for it.
All right, here comes Denyk. Hansam at level 6. He's going to get suplexed into the ground, pulled backwards, and the final chapter's not going to do really enough. Bvoy gets stunned up. That's one down already, and somebody kill the kitty cat. Denyk takes down Vander.
Wow, Misfits make a very successful gank happen in the bot lane. Hansama does utilize the flash, but it's not enough to get out of that situation. And I respect what Dan does. A large part of that came from the fact that Finn was freezing top lane. After Dan committed the TP, it meant that he couldn't shove that wave out underneath the tower. Because of this, he recognized, okay, well, going back top lane is actually not just going to do me that many favors. Instead, let's set up a trap. Let's catch Hansama thinking that he can push out this wave because Bvoy looks like he's going to base. So many mind games were at play in this situation. Again, just draw your attention to the minimap. Finn is freezing here, so there's nothing that Dan can do. Instead, he's like, let's go bot lane. Let's make this play happen. The suplex comes out. Bvoy and Denyk arrive from the shadows, and Hansama is just slowed so much that he can't escape. Good patience from Denyk on the Q to guarantee that hook landing onto Hansama, and then with no flash available on Vander, he ends up dropping. Beautiful play from Misfits, reading the state of the map well, and getting what they can off the back of it.
3 kills to 0, 1,300 gold lead, the first Dragon of the game, and it's just been very good. I think maybe like reactionary play, understanding sort of as and where they can move their players around, and thanks to the gold that's just been secured, Moby Boots picked up for Denyk, so I want to see how frequently he moves around the map.
Now, notice that Inspired is making his way towards the bot. While all that action was happening, Inspired did pick himself up the Rift Herald, and because of the swap that's happening right now, Rogue are making the trade. They know that they're ahead in tempo because of their Rift Herald, which means that they should be able to secure first tower, and there's little that Misfits can do to stop this.
Unsummer and Vander nearby, Inspired picks up a little bit of gold. Denyk is making his way down, and you can see the Febiven was pinged out on the minimap. The tower did not fall, my friend. It was killed quickly enough. And that means Dan's going to be able to hold on to the objective. That's actually a big deal if Bvoy decided to stay. But he didn't. He's recalled. Going to be joining Denyk towards that bottom lane. So the double swap now.
Yeah, the Dragon is spawning in about 2 minutes, which is why they want to have their bot lane on this side of the map. Dan's TP will not be up in time. I think it's still got about a 3-minute cooldown on top of it. Which means that Finn will have that TP advantage over his opposition. And it looks like Misfits may actually let this tower fall. No, they're gonna keep this one alive for now. A lot of farm is being lost, admittedly. Misfits, they haven't been able to catch a lot of the waves that Rogue have just been shoving underneath this tower, and Finn, he's been able to close the gold gap just a bit. Still, due to all the assists that Dan has been involved with, he's still ahead in gold for the time being. But Misfits so far doing a great job. Their next objective will be that Drake, and we'll see how Rogue decides to play that one out.
I mean, they're on a 7-game winning streak right now, looking to make it 8 and you know, match the organization's all-time win record was 9, which is what they set, was it last summer or a year and a half ago? I can't recall. I'll double check that in a moment or two as Dan puts a lot of damage down into Finn. Finn has flash available, and here comes Razork. He's got the chilling flash available. Flash for flash traded. Finn was quite a cheeky one there. The barrel sidestepped as well. That was really nicely played by Finn. Heads up. We're sitting just a Kindle Gem and a Cull, by the way, but beautiful spell use.
Damn, that flash backwards caught me off guard. It was just like next level mind games coming out from Finn, being like, oh, you expect me to flash forward? Nope, I'm gonna teleport right behind you and then I'm gonna sidestep everything. He knew that Dan won't be able to close the gap fast enough because Set, you know, not the most mobile champion yet. He can run fast, but he doesn't have any real gap closers unless someone is nearby. And you will get to see a small replay in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And notice here, Finn, really good early flash from Razork, but then Finn just goes backwards because he knows he's going to get ulted anyway, and then he sidesteps it. Just beautifully played for Finn to be able to get out of that situation. Will, of course, put him behind a little bit, but towers will be traded on both sides. Misfits now sit with a 2K gold lead.
Fantastic performance. 20 seconds until the next dragon. Let's look at the vision. Let's set some expectations, Vedius. Who is going to be in a better position to set this one up? It feels like Rogue are starting to move that way somewhat. You can see Hans Sama positioning himself in the mid lane, but Misfits already inside the river and starting to put some vision down.
Well, because no first items have actually been completed yet, it's difficult to say right now who has the advantage. I would say that because Hans Sama has completed both the Sheen and is already sitting on the Mana Mune, or the Mana Mune, that Rogue should actually have a decent amount of poke damage available already. But they have to respect how strong Dan is at this point. But with no teleport, I think right now, Rogue just aren't in a position to be able to contest, so they're not even going to try. They're going to trade up towards the top side. Maybe they'll look for an early Herald.
Look at Larssen. How much trouble is he in? He's pushed up to the tower. Not a lot of vision, though. Teleport is available for Finn. He needs to start channeling, and he does. That's a good amount of damage. All of a sudden, the Fire Rift has spawned. Larssen and Finn find themselves on what I thought was enemy lines, but actually they control the corner.
So the problem with this play is it didn't actually allow Rogue to trade, because the game plan would have been, okay, we don't want to bother finding them at Drake, it's fine. We know we scale, let's not bother taking the risk. Instead, we'll just take top tier 1 and we'll call it even. But because the TP was forced out from Finn, he used it to keep Larssen alive after, honestly, he was overextended.
Yeah.
That meant that they were not able to trade that objective. So Misfits end up walking away with a Drake. They still get to pick up all that farm in the bot lane. They allow Dan to shove out that whole wave in top. He's now level 11 and has TP available. And it felt to me like Misfits overall came out ahead in the play.
And it's a 2,000 gold lead at 15 minutes. At the beginning of yesterday, Rogue had the highest average gold lead at 15 at plus 1,500. Now they're at minus 2,000. And you've got to give a lot of credit to Misfits' decision-making to build this advantage.
But again, a lot of it has come from the fact that their bot lane often plays very well. And admittedly, we can see in this game, Hans Sama and Vander had a big advantage over Bvoy and Denyk. But the difference was, Finn wasn't just stomping top. Larssen wasn't just holding his, well, stomping mid. He was actually going very even with mid lane. They were losing top side, which means that that advantage that Hans Sama and Vander built was not so overwhelming that it was taking over the map. And Misfits recognized this and responded in kind.
All right, Dan stepping forward. Remember, for anyone that watched Ender's segment about 2 weeks ago, the simplest way to deal with sets is just to run away. And that was just demonstrated flawlessly. Well done, Larssen. True mastery of how to deal with an enemy set. And Febiven at the moment is under a little bit of pressure from Hans Sama, but you can see waiting in the wings there is some support. And True Shopper,
wow, that would have killed him.
Almost taking him out.
Nice ulti there from Hans Sama. Now this kind of changes the state of things, because if we have a look at the minimap, you'll notice that Finn is pushing out bot wave. And this typically means that Misfits, because they have the push in top and have the push in mid, they would have control around this objective, but there's no mid laner now available on Misfits. So this can be a 4v4 situation, but Larssen's backing. Larssen's backing, there's no TP on Finn. They're not in a position to contest, so again, they're not going to. And this isn't the end of the world, because we look at Rogue's comp, we've already talked about how in the late game, this will be difficult to play against for Misfits just because of the amount of range that they will have at their disposal, the amount of poke, the amount of harassment, and the disengage tools that they have with this comp mean that it will be difficult for Misfits to dive. So it seems that Rogue's approach for the time being is just, let's not risk it, let's just wait. And with the Trinity Force now being completed on Hans Sama, it feels like that there's no real pressure on Rogue right now, especially when they still have that mid-tier 1 up and alive.
Yeah, got the Manamune, the Triforce. Nash's Tooth was just picked up by Larssen. Febiven on the other side, he completed the Luden's Echo, while Bvoy's sitting on that Essence Reaver. So Prowling Projectile comes up. That's a lot of damage onto Febi. He's forced to flash. But you can see the combination, Yuumi, Ezreal, when they can slow you down and combine their range and poke, it is so difficult to deal with.
Super difficult. And Febiven now losing both of his summoner spells just from a couple of exchanges that have happened in the mid lane. Razork, though, looking for a flank. Denyk alongside him. They can see Dan pushing in bot. He has the TP available. Is Hans Sama going to get picked off?
Let's find out, let's find out. That's going to get caught back by the Bone Skewer, but Razork held onto any follow-up. Sleepy Trouble Bubble, not going to get fired. But when that Bone Skewer was fired out, I wondered if Razork wanted to go in. He's level 9 right now to the 8 of Inspired, who is now a little bit south of the team. Rift Herald has been picked up. has been channeled. And that will be another tower secured as Dandad is now rotated with the rest of the squad. Riftail will get a secondary charge into this inner turret while Larssen is pushing in the top lane. The minion wave has been cleared out. Summer goes down the barrel, will knock back two. Bullet time comes down and it will zone away the rest of Rogue. But frankly, not quite what Misfits was hoping for. It ends up being a trade, 2 towers apiece.
Rogue are fine with this trade for now. They're still getting gold back out onto the map. Summer has now completed the Man of Yune. So Rogue is still on that scaling hype train. They're still waiting for the late game. And Misfits, while they do have a solid early game lead and they're pressuring it, it's not like Rogue is getting nothing in return. Our observers just highlighted the difference in gold, and you can see mid is very even. Bot is in fact slightly ahead, and things are still fine for Rogue. They're not in such a deficit that they're going to lose, and they're in a better position right now for the Drake. The biggest thing is, again, I'm going to bring our attention to the minimap. Look at this ward that's available right behind them. They can use this as a TP opportunity to flank on the Rogue squad to then try and set up a play. The TP is available on Danan. He has his Trinity Force completed. Are we going to see the TP come through?
Oh, it's time to fight, but the Dragon's going to be secured already. That is very crucial for Rogue. Slowing down the soul opportunity for Misfits is definitely going to be a victory. The Misfits, they were just a little too slow to react to that one. Despite the ward, it would have taken time for Dandan to get in there. And now Rogue, they're actually in prime position to at least pressure this mid lane. But you have to feel that there is an engage opportunity. Razork gets jumped on. He goes golden by the stopwatch, locked inside the Cataclysm. Dandan starts to teleport, but that's already a dead jungler for Misfits. Rogue on the board of their first kill.
Yeah, good pick coming out from Rogue, and this is what they need to do. You already talked about it. Rogue is in the better position for the Drake. They're in a better position for the mid lane tower. Their waves are pushing in their favor right now. They don't need to stress about those, and instead just have Misfits sit on these side lanes, spread their resources thin. Misfits are able to hold on to the tier 1 for now, and Rogue likely looking to reset.
Yeah, but now the shoe is on the other foot, or we have to look at the other team, because Dandan no TP, all of a sudden Finn has his available, and Misfits have got that mid-outer turret to defend. What literally Misfits' situation that they were playing in for the last 10 minutes has now been reversed, and Rogue, if they want to play on those side lanes, you can see Finn pushing out the bot. He's going to have the availability to do so.
Yeah, so I didn't actually notice in the last play, but Dandan TP'd to a ward that was in the middle of mid lane and tried to set up the flank for his team, and the fact that he wasn't able to work, as you were talking about, quick shot, you're right, it now puts Rogue in a much better position where they can just continue to slow the game down. That TP flank option isn't available, but maybe he doesn't need the TP if he just runs really fast at you. Look at your mini-map. Misfits once again looking for the collapse. Here he comes.
All right, Larssen's got Flash and Cleanse available. Dandan's looking for a target to find. He manages to get the showstopper onto Inspired, but Vander sends him all running away. Inspired lives thanks to the flag and drag. But I like the setup. It ends up being a trade of flashes. Summer blows his, but so does Dandan.
Summer and Rogue are continuing to hold the line, though. It ends up being, as you rightly said, Quickshot, just a trade in flashes. That's all it is. And the thing is, it now kind of puts pressure on Misfits to threaten the Baron. They're pushing in mid. They have top pushed in. They're clearing out these waves. They do have Dandan to tank the Baron, but it's not the fastest Baron taking team on the planet. They want to force Rogue to face check, see if they can find a pick. They don't want to do it just yet. They're not feeling comfortable enough, and you can see that Rogue feels a little bit of that pressure, but Misfits don't want to try and force it for now.
What do you think the Infernal Rift impact has on the game? Because I feel like Zoe's not a huge fan. She doesn't have as many walls to shoot that Sleepy Trouble bubble through as much.
That's true, that's very true.
But then similarly, like Gragas, Pyke said they don't mind running between these little alcoves to chase people down. So what do you make of it? You know, what sort of impact will it have on these compositions, how they're going to play for the next 5 to 10 minutes? Because we've seen them, like, battling it out inside the jungle.
So I think the biggest thing that Infernal Drake always influences is your ability to actually get to Baron. So now that the map is a lot more open, it's harder for teams to find picks because they're not funneled into these narrow choke points. You now have a couple more options when it comes to approaching the Baron, and you can approach it that much faster. So I think that's going to make it harder for Misfits to threaten and utilize the pick power that the comp does have around this objective, which means that Rogue can just continue to buy more time, look to scale up, and you can see that Larssen is very close to completing what I believe will be a death cap. And once that is done, alongside the Blade of the Ruin King for Summer, Rogue is online and operational. They're ready to fight.
Yeah, they really are. Yeah, Gromp got put to sleep by Febiven. And that gold lead doesn't mean a thing. It was 2,000 at around 15 minutes. At his stage, it's actually shrunk ever so slightly. And as it stands, Misfits, they were trying to find a pick, but look at the minimap, it's Finn pushing bottom lane.
Yeah, exactly that. You'll notice that every time Misfits look to threaten this Baron, bot lane is being pushed up. Top lane is being pushed up. Who is all this farm being funneled into? Well, of course, Finn and Larssen. These two solo laners are getting all the resources, while Hansam and Vander just hold the wave mid. And every time Misfits go to respond, this is how Rogue answer. This is how Rogue love to play, the defensive. But Dandan has found the flank.
Oh, he has, but what sort of flank is this? He's going to be just taken up before anybody can respond. I don't know if Misfits look to be on the same page there. But while that's going on, now Rogue are going to turn their attention to Baron. Berlin loses its mind with Go Rogue Go chance. And now 20 seconds to the next Infernal. Baron is available, maybe a little too risky too early right now. And Dandan still no TP with a 25-second death timer.
Pressure is starting to mount for Misfits. We already talked about their comp, and we're seeing now, even if Dandan sets up that flank, he's not getting those engages as reliably as he was before. His TP will be available soon, but that's going to be another Drake going in the back pocket of Rogue. And you want to talk about fast Baron teams? Azir, fast. Very fast. Those Sand Soldiers are put to work. And all you need is someone like Inspired. Maybe you just bring Yuumi as well. The heals that she brings, they can probably 3-man it, which means that Misfits is forced to constantly have control over the area. And props to Misfits because they actually have very good vision control. They have a lot of wards tracked all around this objective, and they're also going to secure the Scuttle Crab as well. So it's not, Misfits are very aware of their win condition, and they're also recognizing the strength of their opposition. But the problem is they're not successfully putting the pressure onto Rogue just yet. They don't feel like they have the big enough gold advantage. But it's only going to get worse as time goes by. I want to keep bringing our attention to these items. 3 now finished for Hansam. The death cap going to be picked up any second now for Larssen, whereas Bvoy only 2.5 items in. Yes, the death cap is done for Febiven, but they can't just keep stalling the game out like this. They need to put more pressure on, or Rogue is just going to outscale.
I'm going to go back to something that you said in Picks and Bans, that the range on Rogue is going to be something difficult for Misfits to deal with. Now you've got this open Infernal map as well. If Misfits can force Rogue to funnel into this Baron pit area, maybe that can help with the Gragas, with the set, with the MF. They'll have a lot of AoE. But my word, at this moment in time, the last 10 minutes, it has been Rogue's game. They have been dictating what is happening where, and now Misfits, they're trying to set up another play.
Oh, here comes the set from the flank once again. Finn does have the teleport, but the poke damage coming out from Hansam, a good E there to avoid the damage. And just look at how Rogue kite back. Misfits is like, we can't engage, but they force Rogue out. They're now looking to rush down the mid tower. Will Finn be enough to stop them?
They've got some damage on this. Will they be able to get the tower before it comes in? That's one knock-up. There goes the flag and drag into the Cataclysm on Razork. The bullet time! Melting Rogue's HP bars! They stepped right up into it. Misfits find themselves a kill, and now they are turning for Baron.
Best case scenario for Misfits right there. Not only did they find a really good fight, but they also took down the jungler. Now the smite is gone. Can Rogue make the miracle fight happen that they found so many times before? It was this position that Larssen made the huge play against Febiven in week 1. He has to do it again if they want to win this game.
Oh, true shot barrage tags 3 members of Misfits. That really hurts. Larssen manages to use the slide and glide over the pit. He's still got an Emperor's Divide, but the Baron's already taken. Can they win the ensuing fight? The Divide just buys some time. Finn and Larssen trying to chase. Dandan is in some trouble. Gets caught by the Bone Skewer. That's Finn with 1. Now the Sand Soldiers go forward. Defensive flash from Bvoy. He manages to get to double up. That's taken 1 out. All of a sudden, Hansam is going low, but Vander, he jumps in with you and me to try and get the heal from the Yuumi. Denyk is running for his life. Got flash, got ignite. If he can find himself a squishy, maybe. But 2 members of Misfits are down.
Damn.
Oh! Did he
he's fast enough, though. He's fast enough. He's
okay.
fine. Whew. Nicely done there, Denyk. 3 members, I believe, get out with the Baron buff. But Misfits, this whole play was really good from them. We didn't get to see the whole setup, but the way in which they manipulated the waves and forced Rogue to take the long way around to then get them in this situation where Rogue had to take a fight is exactly what Misfits needed to do. Because now, in a 5 versus 4, this is a much more favorable situation to force this Baron. Yes, they couldn't convert it into a team fight. Obviously, a lot of their ultimates were on cooldown, but they get the objective that they want. They're able to disengage. They even get a lot of summoner spells out off the back of Rogue, and they can walk away happy.
And I think it's so crucial that Rogue were able to kill Dan. He's the member of the Misfit squad with that teleport. It is up, it is available. So reducing that Baron-empowered siege in one of the lanes can be such a big difference maker in reducing the impact of the Baron power play.
What I want to now see is Denyk moving into a side lane. I don't want to see him grouping. I want to see him flanking behind Dan and acting as a secondary threat. Good bubble lands onto Hansama, but he's going to QSS out of that one. Here comes the TP.
Okay, Showstopper's available for Dan. The mid inhibitor turret is low. Dan's looking for a target. Isn't going to fight anyone just yet. Finn is up. He's pushing into the top lane. Remember, there's no inner turret available.
They're not split pushing. They're going to siege mid. Let's see how this works out. Ooh, good damage.
Oh, Febiven takes a lot. The teleport's coming in. Oh, man, here comes Finn. Stepping in from behind. The rest of Rogue now stepping up, but there's not a fight yet.
Inspired has no mana or HP. There's nothing that Rogue would have been able to do about it outside of just watch Finn die. The only bright side for this is he's now in a flank position to contest the Infernal Drake, but he's now going to give that one away. Misfits have control over the river, and now they set their eyes on Finn.
Oh, looking for the Bone Skewer. Not going to happen just yet. On the minimap, Febiven starting to step around. Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Not going to catch out anyone yet. That's on cooldown. Dan's going to get caught up by Finn. Takes some damage, and the portal jump will do something. The rest of Misfits back away, and now Rogue, they are being able to siege. The inner turret's going low. Bullet time comes out to clear the wave and prevent Rogue the siege. The Infernal is up, and will Misfits commit for it?
Someone needs to catch top wave. Rogue recognize this, and they're keeping up the pressure in the mid lane. The problem right now for Misfits is someone has just... Wait, no, the back was cancelled, but Dan's nowhere near. Yeah, they can't. Misfits do not have the numbers to hold this line. They have midwave being pushed in, and now they're going to lose control around this objective. Rogue are the ones to start it off. Razork in a position to try and steal.
There's no bullet time available, remember. Razork has got the ultimate. He doesn't have flash. Infernal's down to 1,000. Finn steps all the way out. Razork throws out the barrel. Let's knock the fuel away. That's going to be caught up from the flag and drag. The Showstopper's inside the pit. The Infernal's still available. It's secured by Misfits. Now it's a 2-for-1. All of a sudden, Hansama is ripping through Misfits. Febiven, however, takes one back and takes Inspired down. The Emperor's Device splits him out as Bvoy kills Larssen. Now Finn gets himself another, and Hansama closes out the ace.
And you can see how challenging these team fights are for Misfits. Rogue utilized their range beautifully, and we're just going to jump straight into the replay. Keep your eyes on Hansama in this fight and just look at how he navigates the team fight. Landing damage where he can, poking out Razork, seeing that Dan's trying to dive on top of him, and you think at this point, Dan can win the team fight. He takes a lot of damage, but then Hansama just barely able to survive and still dishing out damage with Inspired now tanking up the front line. He then disengages, Denyk isn't able to land the damage, and then it's Larssen that's able to clean up a lot of the back end, dealing so much damage, chunking down Febiven and Bvoy, and then Rogue, recognizing that they have the numbers advantage, can look to chase them down and win 3-0. Well, 5-0.
Will Rogue be the first team to defeat Misfits since week 1? It looks to be the case. Larssen and Hansama are absolutely dominating these team fights. They did not pick up the dragon, so keep in mind, the earth, wind, and fire. If Misfits were into music, they might like the band. They've got one dragon left to pick up before they get that soul, and they've got supers pushing into them. A minute till Baron, but maybe the team fights in the close quarters on the steps of their base will help Misfits, but they cannot afford any mistakes.
I mean, the problem is when Rogue is in the position of sieging, their poke is very obnoxious to deal with. Sure, sieging against the Zoe is scary because the risk of her landing a bubble is very real, but Hansama now has his Mercurial Scimitar fully prepped. He already used it earlier to get out of a Sleepy Trouble bubble, but his damage right now is absolutely ridiculous, and right now both teams actually just kind of grouping up in mid.
Oh, Larssen's a target. His flash has been used, though. Ended up traded for Razork. Dan and Finn, they're going to trade back and forth. Dan's in so much trouble. He flashes over the wall. Prowling projectile.
Dan
disintegrates.
Losing his flash there is a big deal. Because he doesn't have the best gap closing abilities, it was already hard for him to get on top of Hansan before. Now it's even harder. Rogue in control. They have top wave pushing. Yes, someone needs to catch bot wave. They could send Hansan, but they want to keep him in the vicinity because Baron is spawning soon. They're utilizing this pressure in mid to take full vision control over the top side of the map. They need to push out that top wave and get some control wards in the Baron. But they also know that if they wait a little bit, nope, they're just going to start this one off. Azir, we talked about how fast he's taking it, and look, they're two-manning it. Let's see if Denyk can get in the way.
He's trying to find a bone skewer. The rest of Misfits are waiting in the wings. Baron has been interrupted. Inspired and Larssen have stepped back. 2 minutes until the Infernal, and Febiven will not be able to find the paddle star. As a quick aside, this is his first professional Zoe ever. Hansama is going to use that arcane shift forward. The last chapter won't be able to find the target, but Bvoy's flash was used to stay alive.
Bvoy still has the ultimate, so he's still got a lot of damage, but now that Jarvan is so much scarier. The moment he ults, there's going to be no way to get out for Bvoy. Denyk is going to have to focus on providing peel rather than trying to execute his opposition, and that's already difficult to do. You can feel the tension starting to build. Both teams really just running down the mid lane. Neither paying any attention to their side lanes, and Rogue just focusing on pushing, then going to Baron, pushing, then going to Baron, but they need to get some control of a top lane, otherwise this Baron dance is just going to continue going on, and Miss is just going to keep soaking up farm.
And I'm going to go back to Febiven. I mentioned it's his first European Zoe. He played in NA. The reason we go back to him, he was the story that started this game. He is the player the Misfits are looking to find that sleepy trouble bubble, and as it stands right now, Denyk is just going to get caught out. Larssen and Inspired, they commit the Divide and the Cataclysm, but now they've got themselves a numbers advantage. They've got a Baron available, still those supers that Misfits are trying to deal with. The Dan is somewhat caught out Hansama, but really has. Bullet time goes down, Finn forced to flash defensively, and the True Shot Barrage goes wide. Larssen with no ultimate available, can't chase up, but that's so much damage. The double up from Bvoy does a lot. All of a sudden, Razork is down. Bvoy gets taken out. It's a double kill for Hansama. They're pushing into the base. Febiven and Dan, the last one standing. I don't think they can stop the siege.
Rogue is looking to upset the win streak of Misfits. That first place spot is going to be lost as Rogue looks to upset the apple cart, looks to break into the base, and Misfits, with only Febiven and Denyk left standing, have nothing to stop the siege.
7 games in a row, Misfits have gone undefeated, and Rogue, in the first game of the second round robin, have taken them down. Rogue have stopped Misfits' winning streak. They will pick up a few more kills as Denyk gets chased down by Hansama, and Rogue take down Misfits.
Rogue now sitting with the 2-0 over Misfits. This split could prove pivotal as we get ever closer to playoffs. But they drafted in a way that allowed them to just focus on scaling. They didn't take any big gambles. They didn't take any big risks. They played well around a lot of their team fights. Misfits, they did get that Baron, but I feel like that we saw a lot of mid lane action this game. Quick shot.
We did.
And it was a bit crazy how the game ultimately ended up being decided. Just a random pick happening onto Denyk, which then allowed Rogue to then just force a team fight in the mid lane. It was just, it didn't really end the way that I was expecting it to end.
And I also think it's, for me, it's important to say that I didn't see the impact of the Zoe and the Pike really this game.
Yeah.
You know, Denyk didn't have too many roams to play around, and from the very beginning, Vedius, you very gently set up the expectation that Rogue's composition would be difficult for Misfits to deal with, and as the game played out, they came more and more true. If you guys want to vote for Key Player of the Game, head to @LEC on Twitter. Larssen, Hansama, and Vander are your options. And exactly like you said, Vedius, the range